Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
Another escape from foreign territory by the Bears. Cairo Santos gets a game ball with a swing of his right leg from 48, and the Bears knock off the Vikings 19-17 on a walk-off kick. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today in episode 187 of the Bears Etc. podcast, and this episode of Bears Etc. brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears. Coming up, our weekly visit with Bears head coach Ben Johnson. Tom, how good does it feel to say your Bears are in first place?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable saying I'm getting used to it, but I'm getting confident and comfortable with it because it seems that when you have so many games in a row that end and go that way, that, you have an opportunity to kind of take it all in, see the improvement in different areas. And like Ben says, each and every week, somebody else has a hand in the operation. And I guess this week it was a foot in the operation, right, and that of Cairo.
Yeah, and, it wouldn't have happened possibly without Devin Duvernay's 56-yard return. Break that down for us because it's a running play. It's a running play. It starts on the left-hand side as we're watching the game, and then the cut to the right and the counter to get to the blocks that sprung him free.
There's a lot less unpredictability in the modern-day return with the new configuration, the formation they have. How many defensive players are on the kickoff return? And because of that, and you have a kickoff return, you have to be able to legally sustain a block, go by the right angles, and get your body in the right position. And repetitiously, as a running back, as a tight end, or a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, that's what you do throughout your whole life. Defensively, you don't do that. So when you take in consideration how many defensive players there are on the return team, they just did a fantastic job of maintaining their leverage throughout that return and staying legal because he caught it on the left-hand side of the field, returned it to the right-hand side of the field. And so if the return was called in the huddle where it was going to attack, you know where to position your head, you know where to position your feet and your body, and they all did a great job of it. So I just admire the repetitiveness of going through that return by Coach Hightower and then called it at the perfect time.
Bring up a great,
and that hole was open and it was sustained.
Yeah, you bring up a great point with defensive players. So Josh Blackwell, he did the kick out block on Thayer Thomas. It was Elijah Hicks and Aman Agbagbamiga doubling a defensive lineman, Tyler Batty. And there were more, but those are the ones that stuck out to me.
Well, that's the first thing I do. When you and I are up in the booth, I look at the return teams, the teams that have the blockers on it, and I count how many defensive players are on each team. Because to me, that's the susceptibility that I would attack at awkward angles, it challenge their body positioning, and challenge the fundamentals of a sustained block. But that's why I appreciate that return so much, is because when you got to cover 53 yards ladder or the width, and then you got to turn it up vertically, that was one heck of an accomplish of a return at the most important time in the game, frankly.
Right, because it's not a straight line. So you're running further than the 56.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, listen, these kickoffs now are strategically placed. And whether it's a team like the Bears that have two returners or a team like Minnesota that had one returner. So there's always a goal of the kicker to put the ball into a specific area that's probably 6 to 8 yards wide. It's not like you're trying to throw, a ping pong ball into a bucket. You're trying to kick a football into a much more condensed area.
How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. Bears have won 7 of 8 and 3 in a row, another winning streak. Pittsburgh will be coming to town. We'll talk about that more in a moment. But the how and the why of winning Kyle Brandt from NFL Network. I'm not sure you saw it. I don't know if you get NFL Network, but the noted Bears fan said the Bears have become the too much time team. The score by the Vikings left 50 seconds on the clock. Too much time. The confidence brewing for an offense. And, and they did it all on the ground to set up the field goal. I know some folks were wondering, well, why not throw the ball? But, hey, if you believe in your guys up front, you put it on the offensive line and some really good blocking at the end of a 7-yard run to get those yards enough to feel comfortable for Cairo's 48-yard distance. Why not?
Well, with that amount of time left, Jeff, if you throw an incompletion, you gain no yards. I don't know how many plays the Bears gave up tackles for loss yesterday on running plays, but now with the running game and the confidence and the strength in the running game that you have, you're almost guaranteed to gain some positive yards. And so when you look at how important positive yards are at that portion of the game with that time remaining and where you ultimately want to position the ball for Cairo, I think, right now, you're probably better off running the ball at that point because you have some time, you have timeouts, and you're having effectiveness in the running game.
7
tackles for loss. That's it surprises me. I did not know that as we're sitting here taping this podcast, but I think it's really an awesome accomplishment by the offensive line to get it into position.
Many of those were those safeties coming down unblocked. Byron Murphy Jr. also. Yep. So those were tackles for loss. But the positive of what the run game did, and you accentuated it both in-game and on our TV show on Fox Game Night Live, the 13 rushing first downs, which contributed through 37 minutes of time of possession. And no matter if it's a young quarterback making his 5th NFL start, that's an explosive potential offense when things are going right, as we saw on that final drive before the Bears finished it off. They can get down the field in a hurry. So possess the ball, lean into the run game. Ben loves it. It's a physical tone. It's a violence that he really embraces. So those 13 rushing first downs, Tom, were significant.
13 rushing first downs, it's a minimum of 39 more plays. And so you just think of that as you just mentioned the time of possession that it led to. But, you 39 more plays, you get a first down and one of those next third downs, so it's just something that how math, computes to the role of efficiency on offense in the final really means to a team.
When Mexican heritage meets American brewing, game day gets an upgrade. Celebrate responsibly, Chicago. That's Cruz Blanca, one of our sponsors of the Bears Etc. podcast. All right, let's talk Caleb Williams now. 19 of his 27 NFL games, no interceptions thrown. That's a big number. Protecting the football. Took, I think, 2 sacks yesterday from the Vikings, but a massive blitz total by Brian Flores. So when it wasn't there and he spun out of trouble, he just threw it away. Didn't want to put it in harm's way. That was I think they blitzed 80% of the time. I think that was the number, somewhere around there, if not more.
Yeah, but I also, you got to give a pat on the back to the blockers.
Yeah.
Because those guys were prepared for their assignments depending upon who they had to block and their responsibilities. Whether it was a tight end lined up as a fullback or a running back, they did a fantastic job in all the tight ends. But the one thing I'm most disappointed in is after I go back and look at the film, the holding call on DeAndre Swift. That was baloney. That was a very well done fundamental block, hands inside, got his hips turned to keep his body in between the rusher and the quarterback, and then with strength, he turned him to the ground. That would have been a block that would have been highlighted if they didn't make the holding call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's first series.
Yeah.
First series.
Disappointed.
You think is it because they took him to the ground?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it took but it was perfect hand placement. It was body positioning. The first thing they tell you as a blocker is keep your butt in between the rusher and the quarterback. And that's what you try to do, because that's going to bring your shoulders and that's going to bring your feet. You go back and you look at any angle that's offered to you from NFL films, sideline, end zone behind the defense, and it'll tell the story of that block.
There was some great blocking yesterday. Tight ends up on the offensive line, the backs. Monungai again putting his face right in the teeth of a blitz. Wow.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away with your conversation with Ben, but you guys addressed the fact that some of the blocks by the tight ends when they're in motion, and which is one of the more difficult blocks to pull off at an NFL level because of the talent that you're getting ready to block, whether it's a defensive lineman, a linebacker, a third-level player, just tremendously done yesterday.
All right, let's listen in to head coach Ben Johnson. All right, good afternoon. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
How you feeling about these men right now?
I feel really good. I think these guys are doing a phenomenal job. Taking care of their work during the week. Our weeks of preparation have continually got better. Practices have looked good, and we got to continue to sharpen our sword as we go into this next game.
Anything surprise you?
No, not really. I mean, I think I'm just really happy as we find out more about each other and this team that they come out each week and they hit the reset button and they're ready to go. So we got to continue to do that. Stay focused on the main thing, which is finding a way to get better that particular day and finding a way to win on Sunday.
It seems that when you need something the most, you get it. Is that a function of how you guys play, the physicality of which you play, protecting the football, taking the ball away, those types of things that allow you to get what you need when you need it the most?
Yeah. I think, it's the product of a lot of guys playing hard and playing together. Good things typically happen when you play the game the right way, and so I think we're seeing that right now. We got a lot of guys that they show up in crunch time and they're ready to perform. No moment's too big for them. And it seems like almost each week someone else is stepping up to the plate and answering that bell.
I think Caleb at the podium talking about being the known, right? Knowing how to win.
Mm-hmm.
And Bayard, got to find that killer instinct to squeeze all the life out of your opponent. Is that the next phase of this thing?
Yeah, that's the hope. And I feel like we've been saying that now for a few weeks. And so at some point, we'll get our opportunity to do that and we'll come through with it. And we just haven't done it yet. Last week, or I should say yesterday, it was, 16-3 at one point, I believe, and we had a chance, I think, to score another touchdown there on offense with a big play opportunity, and we don't capitalize on it. And so that's an example right there where we can get better in that phase. And then defense, you give up a couple touchdowns there in the fourth quarter. We don't do that, and then we're potentially in a really good spot. And same thing with special teams. We give up a couple plays that we'd like to have back as well. So we're so close. We're so close to playing a complete game and just not making it close there in the fourth quarter and being able to kneel on the football. But we haven't done it yet. And until we do, we'll continue to find ways to win there in the fourth quarter.
From your experience playing the way you want this team to play, the violent nature, are there moments in the game when you can feel the opponent like, okay, this is a little much right now? I mean, there are moments in the game, like what could be any of the three phases.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I do sense a little bit when I'm calling plays on offense, when I feel the line of scrimmage just completely start to shift, on the snap. I do feel that, and I do like to lean into the run a little bit more when I start feeling that. But no, like on offense, I want to see population of that football, pushing the pile. I do feel that. On defense, those hard hits do bring the entire team to life. They feed off that. I think we've had some on special teams as well. I think Daniel Hardy's had some huge hits that, it really ignites us. And so those impact type plays, they go a long way.
The motion in the run game. I look at the run by Monungai, the counter, with Colston and Cole. Where does the timing of that start? Does the back have to be a smidge patient, or do those guys have to get to where they need to and root out their guy immediately?
Talk about the design of the play. That's really where it starts, and making sure you're in phase with those pullers. And then we got the motion players like you alluded to, and it doesn't always look great the first time we do a few of these things, but you kind of put it on tape and you coach it up, and these guys typically they can figure it out on their own. They don't need a whole lot of coaching. They know what's right and what's not and what's going to work. And so Always starts, though, with those fundamentals, coming off the football, running off the ball up front, good pad level, combination blocks continue to improve, and we got to keep at that. But the motion certainly does help us and create some good leverage points and angles for us there in the running game.
To get the timing just right, how many times do you think you have to practice some of these things?
Yeah,
hundreds.
I don't know about hundreds, but it's up there though.
Yeah.
It's up there.
You don't have time for hundreds.
Yeah, we don't have time for hundreds, but we try to make it pretty consistent for the quarterback to where he can compartmentalize these things and still play fast and not think too much himself. But he's really the driving force. If he can't handle the motions, then the rest of us it really doesn't matter what we draw up. So he's doing a really nice job controlling the whole operation right now. I do think we continue to get better with the pre-snap stuff. I know we had a couple snafus based on alignment last week, but we'll be better going forward.
When you get a first couple third downs in a game, I think you went deep. So are you trying to just set a tone?
We felt like this week that was the right course of action. The first one we were hopeful to get maybe a little bit different coverage than what we got, but yet they gave us what they gave us, and Caleb did a good job recognizing it and taking his one-on-one there to roam. And we're just a little bit off. That's the thing about those deep shots, is they're lower percentage throws than what you would like. And so 3 and out on that one. And then the next one, wasn't sure who was going to pop. We gave them a little bit different personnel group, and they're in man-to-man coverage, and wasn't sure how they were going to match up. And sure enough, they end up dropping a guy because of our different personnel group, and it happened to be DJ. He was on the deep route, and it's just one that we need to connect on. So we're pretty darn close to hitting a few of these things, and like I said, I think we had a couple more opportunities later on in the game where we could have gotten some big ones as well.
Gosh, when those things start happening, what happens?
Yeah, no, it opens everything else up. Particularly, they're in too high defense a lot of the time. They're trying to take away those explosive plays. So I think it makes them think twice about what they're doing when we can hit them deep and they're in a defense that they perceive as pretty safe.
All right, let's talk defense and some of the things that were even Montez Sweat on that tip, how important at that moment that tip was. Yeah, everybody wants sacks and whatnot, but Grady Jarrett, the pressure for the interception.
Oh, yeah.
The Thayer guy.
Yeah.
Austin Booker, another heavy workload.
Yeah.
What do you have, 51 of the 55 snaps?
Oh, yeah.
And that long arm was he knocked one of the best left tackles out. Would you agree, Christian Darrisaw?
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. Those guys are doing a really good job, and you can see it coming together. We can still tighten up on a couple things with our pass rush, and I think we'll be even more effective. We'll address that here this week, but I'm with you. I feel Booker coming to life. You felt his presence the last couple of weeks, and Sweat since the bye week. You feel him every game, and so I'm happy where the edge guys are. Grady probably had his best game since he's been here. You can tell he's getting more healthy as we go through this thing, and so I'm pretty excited about where our D-line's at right now.
I made a comment in our TV show, just coming up with game plan ideas and keys to watch, and I said, the Vikings, they do a good job on third down in the red zone, and the Bears better than what they could be good at, right? And it happened that way. 3 third downs you held the Vikings to defensively.
Yeah. I thought, they got a couple third downs early in the game overall, but our defense did a nice job tightening up there, and 6 punts and 2 takeaways, and all up until they had the one long drive that was 85 yards or something like that. But other than that, I thought our guys played really, really good on that side of the ball.
We talked about this morning a little bit, but I'd like you to amplify, because the job that Cairo did on kickoffs created some great, really long fields for Minnesota. I think it was 5 drives starting inside the 30, something like that. Yeah,
sounds right. It's easier said than done sometimes too, because he's a really talented player, as we all know. But those we call them dirty ball kicks, where they're a little bit more of a knuckleball type, that you're trying to line drive and get in that landing zone, and hopefully not allow that returner to have a running start straight ahead to help him get going. And so we executed those really well. I thought Cairo did a phenomenal job, and it's a big reason why our kickoff coverage unit was so much better yesterday.
All right, Pittsburgh. I know you haven't had time to detail it yet, but is their defense share any similarities? Not maybe the extent of the old Blitzburg, but it's a pretty aggressive defense with that scheme.
Yeah. I mean, you look at just the numbers, and I don't know if anything necessarily pops out, but I know they're playing good red zone defense, and they're limited the number of points scored. So that's really the name of the game, right? Is you limit the number of points scored, and they're doing that. It's a good football team. I think Coach Tomlin's had a winning record never had a losing record, right? I mean, that's pretty incredible, really, when you think about it in this day and age of NFL football. So we'll have our hands full here this week, no question.
All right, good luck with your prep. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Jeff.
Coming out 3, 2, 1. Other notes taken by you, Tom Thayer, before you give us that. Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears.
I just like the level-headedness of Ben. For a guy like myself, I would be going overboard excitement about what they've been able to do. But, it's more of, hey, we're on to next week. We got to get ready for the Steelers. Yeah, we did some things really well, but we got to improve in some certain areas, some specific departments in the game. When you take those big third down shot plays that you asked Ben about early in the game, if you get the coverage that you're expecting from them and you make those 2 plays, you're talking about 60 to 70-yard gains. So the little things that could result in big things later on down the road, it's nice that you be able to go in there, and even with the motion plays by the tight ends, those big plays, the improvements that you can make out of watching tape. And I think that's an interesting point, because I've always been a believer that you got to go out there and repetitiously do things. But if you can make the corrections and the improvements from watching tape with your crew, I think that's even more important.
Well, you always taught me about landmarks, and when guys are pulling or doing whatever they have to do to get out on the perimeter from the guard position or just tackle sweeps, whatever the case may be, the tight ends. I mean, we've seen some over the years not executed in a manner that you should embrace. These are being done very well.
Yeah.
Landmark pops. And it's happening so quick, you have to literally slow it down to watch it and enjoy it. Honestly, in real time, it's going too fast. I can't wrap my head around it.
For example, so we had a play in our offense that was called 49 near Geo wing crack. And the first thing I had to do was make sure that I had all the weight on my left foot so I could take a big opening step to let Matt Suey clear to block the defensive end. And then I had to get depth to make sure that I got around him. And then I had to read the first force from the outside edge. So it's those things that for years, those are the taught processes to the specific positions that you play. But watching these guys, and whether it's Theo Benedette pulling out to the left to lead one of the sweeps, or the things that Darnell has been able to do, the fold block, it was a block out by Darnell right, and then Durham Smythe folded up inside of him to make an 8-yard catch on first down. So now you got 2nd and 2. So it's all those different things. It can affect the run. It can affect the pass. It can affect the tight end, a running back, a lineman. Everybody has involvement.
Yeah, so as you're in your stance and keeping all that weight, you can't tip it off, though, for the defensive line to know what you're doing. So how'd you hide that?
We always went through the process of the first thing we did, no matter how many years we were there, was going through the balance of a stance. Because Dick Stanfeld, our offensive line coach, always said you have to have the same stance for everything. And the part of the process is where you put the weight on the balls of your feet, how you got your balance down on your front hand, and all those things. You grow into kind of a comfort zone where it just becomes second nature. And after doing it for years, it's always efficient.
Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. The Dallas shift where they would...
Yeah.
Is that legal still?
Yeah. We used to have fun with it, Jeff, because when we were
I would love to see it come back.
When we were doing demonstration squad back in the day, and we were playing Dallas, we used to do it the whole week in preparation. And, it was kind of fun for us because it's something we didn't do. But the Dallas shift, they did that so the backs could go in motion or change position behind them.
Oh.
They could disguise it for a second, then get back in their stance.
Do you
love it.
Do you feel it gives the offensive line an advantage?
No,
okay.
It's more of to be deceptive to where the running backs are going to line up before the snap of the ball. But it was fun to do as an offensive.
Did you ever
lineman.
investigate the history of it from Coach Landry?
Well, that was it. It was to hide the running backs, because you're talking about running backs that had, they had a fullback, a wingback, and a halfback. And when you have that, you still have to be deceptive.
Let's talk the defense. If you watch tape, what stood out to you overall?
Again, I like the continuous rotation of the defensive front. I like keeping those bodies fresh. There's some big guys up there, and they can play a really well-branded style of football. I'm super impressed with the evolution of Austin Booker in being able to play, have an arsenal of pass rushes, but playing the run equally as well. And I think that was one of the question marks of coming out of college. Could he stand up against the running game at an NFL level? And he has, and he's done it well. The continuous improvement of Montez Sweat, whether it's his reaction to a quarterback that's in a passing position and tipping the ball out of the air, or beating an offensive tackle with a one-on-one rush to speeding up the process. And then you got Jonathan Ford, you got Grady Jarrett, you got Dexter Sr., you got all these versatile bodies that you're able to use in the middle of that defense, Andrew Billings, and you're able to use the variety of skills that you have depending upon the down and distance. There's a lot of personnel shifts. I still like the brand of football that Noah Sewell's playing. And to me, TJ's going to be one of my favorite players till further notice. But when you get a guy ready that needs to be plugged in and play immediately, significant snaps, and then he rebounded after what was some friendly fire. So all of that, and then again, the defensive back play, is really married up with the defensive rush. And yeah, there's some plays that the opponents make. That's NFL football, but the DBs and Kevin Byard are sighted in.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Byard is taken very well to this style of defense of Dennis Allen. I mean, he's had interceptions his whole career. Every year he's had an interception, but he's on the path to a Pro Bowl season right now.
Yeah, but a lot of it is because of the experience that Kevin Byard has had throughout the course of his career. And he's, putting all that of it in his memory bank. And he could sit there and he could talk to himself during the course of a cadence of the opponent going, I've seen this play before. I've seen this snap. I know these receivers and what the down and distance and everything. He's probably, if you could just listen to his brain during the course of a game, it would be a symphony, because the thinking process that he must go through from a safety, because now he's a safety with experience that's backing up the first and second level of that defense. And you look at the reason, what's a great picture is you take that interception of Kevin Byard. He makes that catch, right? But look at Nahshon Wright right behind him. He's in position, Jeff, that he's not even looking at Kevin. He's ready to deflect the pass. And so I think it's really neat that they're not interrupting each other's thinking process, but look at the accomplishments, man. An interception where the defensive back behind him is going to deflect the ball.
Sean Wright, the man they call Shawnee, I tell you, this is another example of don't give up on young players. So he had been with Dallas, never really got on the field, but Al Harris was coaching him up, and goes to Minnesota. They let him go. And look what he's the leading takeaway man in the NFL this year. He had an opportunity, and he's taking advantage of it, obviously, with Jalen Johnson getting injured. But I just hope that he's just scratching the surface. I mean, he's a tall corner, and, big corners, some systems love big corners like Dennis Allen, the length. And they haven't even been able to use all what they want to do. They want to be a press man football team, but they haven't been able to do it as much. They will eventually, but they've been having a deal with a lot of injuries in that secondary. So when everybody's healthy, it's going to be fun to watch.
So you remind me. So when we are doing a podcast early in the year with Al Harris has a similar a similar, where he was with one team and then ultimately he made it to Green Bay, and then that's when he flourished. So when you're talking about experience, not only your body style and defensive back play, but also your journey and the success at the end. So hopefully, that journey that Al can talk about, helps Shawnee, as you call Nahshon Wright. Maybe that can resonate with him.
And I just give him a ton of credit because he's overcome a lot in his life, let alone. And, obviously Sunday was difficult for him after the passing of his former coach at Laney College in Oakland, California over the weekend. Suffered a gunshot wound and passed away. He's the athletic director at the school now, gave up coaching last year. Bold, vibrant, and brewed right here in the U.S., it's the perfect beer for tailgates, backyard grills, and post-touchdown celebrations. Cruz Blanca, Cerveza, refreshed. Proud partner of the Chicago Bears. Want to dig in a little bit to the Steelers? You've watched some. How different is the defense? Obviously, they like to bring pressure, but they're a 3-4 team, have been a long time. They got a lot of names on that defense, a lot of veterans in the secondary, and guys that can get to the passer. But stylistically, they're not blitzing 80% of the time or 60% of the time, but they will bring heat.
Right. They feel that they don't have to blitz that percentage of time because they have outside pass rushers that can win a majority of the time. So when you think about what does this team do, it brings that outside pressure that they can compute that to sacks, but they can also compute that to contain. And then if they close that pocket in around the quarterback, then they give them a difficult throwing foundation. And sometimes what they try to do is limit the escapability of the quarterback when they have a disciplined outside rush that can win for sacks. And they do run some line stunts up front. And because you have maneuverable defensive ends, sometimes the stunts they run are super quickly done and efficiently done. And so what you're going to have to do is this is a team that you're going to have to block from front to back. And because they don't blitz a lot, it's not like Brian Flores where he's going to be willing to take a guy out of the defensive backfield and blitz him early in the series, because then, I don't know, then you have some susceptibility in the back end of the defense. So this is a team that has a luxury of counting on their rushers up front to get the job done.
Right. First and foremost, TJ Watt, got to get him blocked up. Joey Porter on the back end at corner, significant. As I mentioned, a lot of veterans in that back end. But Peyton Wilson, a linebacker, I think you and I both have a great deal of respect for his play, Tom. He runs as well
as any linebacker in the league. I mean, he can cover backs out of the backfield. He can run with tight ends. He's uniquely gifted with the size that he has to be able to, they can take advantage of him. I do think that you can run at him. I do think that if you have, isolation plays where the linebacker is responsible for a big area and exactly where the hole is coming at you, I think Tooney and Jonah Jackson and Drew Dahlman and all these offensive linemen, if they can get to them, I do think they can muscle them out of position. But nevertheless, the guy runs as well as some. He's kind of like and I want to say this respectfully, like a poor man's Urlacher. He's got that type of size. He's got that type of athleticism. He runs as well as anybody. He's had some injury issues in college. So to me, that was always my red flag looking at him in the combine in college.
I know Lou Canellis on Game Night Live asked us, do we care if Aaron Rodgers plays or not? I don't know that you answered it. What do you want to do?
I don't care. I really don't. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, that's, he's had that type of career and that type of production, but he's also in his upper 40s with limited escapability. So if you come in there, you got limited escapability, you have a bad left wrist, you can't necessarily, you may not be able to take snaps from under center, so you may have to play the whole game out of shotgun. And at this point, we have no idea if he's going to play, contribute or not. But I don't necessarily, if he plays, he plays. Sometimes more of a dangerous weapon is a quarterback waiting in the wings because he's got nothing to lose but firing the ball.
Right. Mason Rudolph completed 12 of his 16 passes in relief of Aaron Rodgers.
And you haven't even mentioned that, like, their receivers, when you think about that crew.
Yeah, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, but, Jalen Warren got hurt in the game, too, the running back. But they've got
a tight end.
Oh, Darnell Washington is a Empire State Building.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I mean, he's going to catch a pass if you have a one-on-one. It's going to be like Isaiah Rodgers against Cole Kmet last week. However, I'm not so sure he's the type of guy that's going to beat you with big play capabilities. He's just a big guy.
Can't miss him. And then I enjoy the center's play. Zach Frazier. He's a guy that gets dirty down in there. Not in a negative. I'm not saying he plays dirty, but the dirty yards.
That's
Zach
part of
Frazier.
the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, right.
I was looking at this feature they were doing the other day on Rocky Blyer, the all-time great running back, former Vietnam veteran. And they had a lot of highlights of the great Mike Webster there. And you look at him and the size of his arms, those rolled up sleeves, that whole offensive line. And just traditionally, the Steelers have always had a good center. Well,
it's a 6-4 team coming to Soldier Field to take on a first place 7-3 team. And I think this first place thing, Ben's a one game at a time guy. He's not going to take the bait, but the crescendo is now going to rise from the outside in. Are the Bears, there's going to be the standard lines that you're going to hear. How they deal with success. Are they what they are? The record says they are. And it's going to be noisy. And I think by virtue of just focusing on 1 week at a time, you mute the noise.
Also, Ben had an appreciation in your conversation with him today of the accomplishments of Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
When you talk about a guy that's never had a losing season in the NFL, that may never be repeated again. Maybe it'll be repeated by Ben throughout his career. But you can't deny the fact that Coach Tomlin has had an incredible head coaching career with the Steelers. And when you look at the Steelers, 3 head coaches, my gosh. I mean, it's an unbelievable, just a foundation for that team.
One more thing on Pittsburgh. You were saying there, Paul Allen, the Vikings play-by-play guy, he said that Caleb Williams is as difficult to tackle of any quarterback I have seen since Ben Roethlisberger.
Right.
2 totally different quarterbacks, size-wise and whatnot. But what do you think of that statement?
Well, I was going to ask you within that same conversation, because I remember you and I doing a game with the Carolina Panthers, and we are looking at guys bouncing off Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And you think of athleticism, size, running ability. Cam Newton was he was in not a class of his own, but he was as difficult to tackle and take down as a quarterback as anybody I've ever seen. But so is Ben. Ben made a career out of it, and he would shuck you off and make a completion. And I think it's 2 different styles. Yeah. I think Caleb is way more elusive than Ben. Ben can take more guys jumping on his back and still shrugging them off.
Yeah, the sudden spins, and another one yesterday when that safety blitz hit number 24. I've already forgotten the names of all the players on the other team, but man, that was something. I mean, that was as sudden as you can get. Ward, the safety. All right, that's going to wrap us up. We got more Pittsburgh preview, and guess what's coming up? Your good friend Chris Chelios is going to join the Bears Etc. podcast. Talk about all things Chicago sports.
An enormous Chicago sports fan.
Yeah. So he'll have Bears thoughts.
And he's a local. I get text messages throughout the games by Chelly that he's got. Sometimes he's sitting on the cloud of anger, and sometimes he's on the bench of happiness.
Yeah.
A lot like you and I, depending upon the outcome.
All right, well that'll be good to talk to him. Good news: Chicago United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening, everybody. For Ben Johnson and Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.